Imagine walking through your home at night, where every creak and shadow should be familiar, until you notice something, a presence that shouldn't be there. What would you do if a stranger silently invaded your most sacred space, watching from the darkness? Tonight you'll hear the chilling tale of a man haunted by a mysterious figure lurking in the shadows of his own home. But before we dive into this spine-tingling story, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to Ghostly Whispers for more terrifying tales that will keep you up at night. I've always enjoyed late-night walks. Something about the stillness makes everything seem more straightforward. I am a welder by trade and have been doing it for over 40 years. I live alone on a large farm with my dog, Bosley. The house is too big for one person, but I didn't have the heart to downsize after my wife Maria died. My children moved out years ago, and since her death from cancer, it's just me and Bosley. One night, after a long day at work, I decided to go for a walk. My property is large, so a single loop is usually sufficient to satisfy my craving. The air was excellent, and Bosley trotted alongside me. Sometimes I think he likes me more than I do him. I'd walked that loop hundreds of times, but something caught my attention as I returned to the house. I looked up at the second-story window, which overlooked the bedroom Maria and I shared. For a moment, I thought I caught a glimpse of movement. I froze in my tracks, staring up at that window. There was no reason anyone should be inside. I hadn't been in that room in years and couldn't bring myself to. I felt my blood boil at the thought of some stranger breaking into my home. I was not going to put up with that. I dashed inside, my heart racing, and hurried upstairs. The room was empty, just as I had left it. There is no sign of anything out of place. I looked everywhere and found nothing. Yes, I was terrified, but I was also angry. I did not take this lightly. I assumed I had just seen something that was not there. Feeling foolish, I stood there for a while but couldn't shake the sensation that something had been there. The following night I awoke to Bosley growling. He is a good dog. He never barks unless there is something to bark at. I sat up in my bed and listened. That's when I heard creaks from upstairs. It could have been the sounds of my old house, but my thoughts were drawn to footsteps directly above me. I'm sure you can guess which room is directly above me. I considered getting my hunting rifle from downstairs, but I didn't want to go so far. I was confident I could retrieve whatever was up there by hand. I grabbed my flashlight and went to check again. Nothing. The room had not changed at all. My rage was turning into anxiety at this point. Something felt wrong in the house. The next night I found the kitchen lights turned on. I know I turned them off before bed. I do not leave lights on. There was no doubt that someone was in my home. I began to panic. I called the police and told them I suspected someone was sneaking around. They searched the house from top to bottom but discovered nothing. They were polite and told me to call back if I needed them, but I could tell they didn't believe me. The following night was the worst by far. I couldn't sleep, so I went upstairs to recheck the room. I'm unsure why. Perhaps I thought it would ease my mind. However, when I opened the door, I froze. There were clothes all over the floor, including Maria's clothes. I had packed them away after she died. They were now everywhere. Something like this does not happen at random. Then I saw her. A woman was standing in the doorway staring directly at me. I couldn't see her face well, but I knew she wasn't Maria because she was too short. I'm unsure who she was, but she didn't belong there. I had never felt so afraid in my life. Without thinking, I charged at her. She turned and bolted down the stairs, out the front door. She had already left by the time I got outside. I searched the property with Bosley, but found no trace of her. I did not sleep that night. For months afterward, I couldn't sleep. I was constantly on edge, convinced I had heard footsteps upstairs at night. Every little sound set me off. I slept with my rifle next to my bed, terrified of having to use it one night. I debated calling my brother to stay with me, but decided not to. I was raised to solve my problems, so I did that. The nightmare did not end, however. One night, I was sitting in the living room when I noticed a figure in the yard staring at me through the window. It was her again, My heart felt like it had stopped. I grabbed my hunting rifle and dashed outside with Bosley close behind. She was still there, only a silhouette in the moonlight watching me. I fired a few warning shots, hoping to scare her away. That was enough to cause her to turn and run into the darkness, but it did not make me feel any better. I was tormented by a random woman who was most likely homeless. I couldn't understand why this was happening to me. I stood there a while, waiting to see if she would return. She never did. I haven't seen her since, but I'm sure it'll happen eventually. I'm fully prepared to defend myself, but I don't think this level of anxiety is sustainable. Thank God for Bosley. I don't know what I would do without him. I'll send an update if anything changes.